Oh, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Brightworks, and a Christmas special that I'm excited to cover. I've been given a little bit of a Christmas miracle myself. I've been granted access to Bar Exclusive, a little community project that's been set up. If you're 30 open skill or higher, it's a group of gamers that come together and play some top-notch games, and apparently today they've got a little bit of a replay for me to cast. I'm going to be taking a look at these games over the next coming days, because yeah, it's definitely a treasure trove of some top-notch games. So today, if you haven't already noticed, we're going to be taking a look at a game that was played on All That Glitters, but with a stunning little bit of a twist. So, spawning right here is the blue team leader as one of, that's right, 3 commanders in this 3 versus 3 on All That Glitters. I know, it's going to be none other than Pro Autopilot. With those little goblin punching mitts right there, wearing that hat on top of his Santa hat here, doubling up hats for the Armada commander in blue right now, and going to be going into a little bit of a vehicle bay. A 3v3 on All That Glitters. For a lot of reasons, that's really interesting, and we'll go over all of them here in a moment, but I figure we may as well take a moment to meet the entire rest of the blue team, since there's only 2 more of them. The green commander, spawning at 49 open skill, previous tournament winner. It's going to be none other than Bloodier. Marching forward here as the Cortex commander in the midsection of the map, and then over in the canyon alley we have Hexu. Rounding out the blue team at 38 open skill and going to be showing us what they've got. The underdog of the blue team going to be showing us what they can do on the canyon lane with that spicy geothermal and all the metal benefits that the canyon lane does have to prove for itself. Spawning on the other side of the map here, spawning as the red team leader. As a Cortex commander, it's none other than Pro X Factor Live. So we've got teammates, right, or clanmates going up against each other here at 54 open skill. Definitely far and away the leader for the red team, and for the match in general, actually. Followed up by Inda Club, the Armada commander, slightly to the left over here. Going to be playing as Armada. Beautiful little Santa hat on and everything as well. And to finish off, we have, of course, Lexon. Lexon clocking in at 36 open skill here, and apparently a contributor. That's what the little, the plus sign indicator over there says. Lexon going to be showing us what they've got in the canyon lane for the red team. All right. Now, there's a lot of reasons, but one of the reasons why this game stuck out to me is obviously because the skill level for these players is off the charts. These are some of the best of the best. This is not really, I mean, you'd be hard-pressed to find a match that really features this many of players that are all top tier like this. So whenever those games do come around, I like to cast them, because as fun as looking at the, the noob games, the low-level games, the Metal League games are, I feel like there's nothing quite as satisfying as watching the pros go at it with each other and try and duke it out for who is exactly the best of the best. Now, the other interesting thing, of course, is that All That Glitters, a map that I'm sure many of you are familiar with, is a very, very popular 8 versus 8 map. What that means is that each of these commanders is going to be using, or should be utilizing, 2 or more times the economy that they would normally have in a regular game of All That Glitters. So it means that these commanders really have the opportunity to shine, show us what they're capable of. Nice defense right here from X Factor Live, manages to blast down the rover right there with some good positioning on the commander. Essentially what it means is that all these commanders are going to be trying to manage quite a bit more than what they normally would have access to on this map. Grunt in position here, nice positioning. Ooh, with the defense, yeah, nicely done. That Grunt in position right there from Bloodier. Sent over to this left-hand side, already anticipating that there would be a little bit of a run by and keeping that Grunt in position to shut down those ticks before they could do any damage in the backline. And that secures a early start here for the blue team. A little bit of a run by on the right-hand side. As you can see, the blue team spawning a little bit more equally across the map. I want to say, if we just zoom out really quickly here and take a look, you can see the blue team is, roughly speaking, about equidistant throughout this map, right? We've got one on the right, one on the left, and one right down the middle, whereas the red team is a little bit more skewed towards that left-hand side, right? If you just kind of look at this, there's sort of this open midsection in this backline right here that I think the red team is going to have to be very extra vigilant about in order to make sure that no run-bys happen, like already we can see Hexu taking advantage of. So nicely done from our Cyan commander, our underdog for the blue team, going ahead and taking advantage of that very early on, doing a wonderful job of it. Grunt out on the front line here. Will eventually be sniped down by a swarm of ticks that blasted to smithereens. My goodness. When a swarm of ticks descends upon a unit, I can't help but feel pretty bad, right? It's kind of like watching just molecular robots disassembling something, right? Grey goo robots disassembling things. Anyway. Constructor's building a build turret here to try and assist this laboratory, and going to be building some wind turbines as well. And I have a feeling that energy production is going to be the name of the game. It's going to be what most of these commanders are going to struggle with. Obviously, when you have so much metal production on your hands, you're not used to the way that the normal scaling, or rather you are used to the way that the normal scaling would go, but that's far from what we're seeing right here. Obviously, with this much metal, you're going to be able to scale that economy a lot more, and so it means you have to be a lot more aggressive with that energy expansion. I would know it's one of my greatest weaknesses as well, especially considering sometimes we do like to play on the Brightworks live streams, usually played on Saturdays, 12 to 4 PDT. Usually that's my biggest weakness as well, is just not scaling the economy quite right. When we have 1.5x or more resource production, sometimes suddenly it can be very difficult to figure out exactly how much energy production you actually need. Now, the other interesting thing is I wonder if any of these commanders are going to go into airplay. Now, usually on this map, you would have one commander dedicated to airplay somewhere in this back section here. They would be dedicated to building fighters, bombers, shuriken, all that good stuff in order to keep your line safe and do a little bit of damage on the other side of the map. But obviously, these pro-level players are, well, only one player a pop, so it means that if any of them wanted to go into air, they would have to split their resources, and their front line would be all the more weaker for it. Not necessarily the end of the world, right? Because obviously if you use those bombers and if, for instance, a Cortex commander gets up into the air and uses those shuriken, they can make up that disadvantage, right? They can use those shuriken to even the playing fields, they can assist their teammates, or they can save themselves. Even if they have inferior numbers, they can save themselves by just having a whole bunch of those shuriken in order to clean things up, and that makes things very efficient. Frontline labs from basically every commander here for the red team, though. Very cool to see. The blue team remaining on backline labs, but yeah, you can see already the green commander Bloodier already going into T2. Not bad. A very, very aggressive T2 transition right here from the green commander, but I think it makes a lot of sense. You have so much metal production into the economy right here for the green commander. You can see right now, pulling in about 46-ish metal per second is more than enough to get that T2 lab up and running, and yeah, just like that. T2 just about to finish here. That is a 6-minute, 30-second T2 lab. That is basically the timing of somebody who is rushing T2 in a backline position, has managed to get this T2 bot lab already up and running and is starting up that T2 constructor. What a massive jump right here for Bloodier, using that front line and using the pace of this game in order to go for T2 very rapidly, and I have a feeling that that's an advantage the blue team can milk very, very nicely if they manage to get away with uncontested eco cheese just like that. Incisors fighting on the right-hand side. We do have some thugs pushed out of the lab here from X Factor as well. I'd love to actually see a couple of Rocketeers, the Aggravators. One of the things to keep in mind here is that because this is only 3 commanders as opposed to the regular 8, it means there's also only a limited amount of APM to go around, right? That being said, obviously these commanders all have tremendous amounts of APM each. They're all top-notch players, and so they're going to be a little bit of friendly fire there. Yikes. They're all going to be capable of microing quite a lot on their own, but there is something to be said for the fact that 8 commanders typically able to micro multiple, or quite a few more units individually than anything else. Here we go, though. T2 metal extractors coming up and running right here, and I hope we see these T2 constructors being passed out to the team. Yep, looks like we will. Cyan constructor handed over right here to Hexu, and it looks like we already have a constructor just waiting right here, probably about to head on over towards autopilot. Janice jumped upon right here by a bunch of riot tanks. Hey, nicely done by the orange commander, breaking the lines right here with a couple of those shell shocker and the good old-fashioned riot tanks to impulse everything else down. Have to be careful though, without medium tanks to really push forward here. Yeah, these do start to get a little bit susceptible. Medium tanks relatively good at actually shutting down those riot tanks if it's a 1-to-1 battle. This was a 3-to-1 battle, so obviously in the favor here of the blue commander, but an excellent trade overall for Lexon here, who did manage to, at the very end of the day, blast down quite a few more of those blue tanks than the orange tanks that went down. It is a slippery slope, though. One good push does not a victory make. Oftentimes, well, unless you're playing at sea, but oftentimes in the land it takes quite a bit more than that. Oh, I'm curious to see how this is going to go. So already the blue team is launching ahead in economy. You can see that clearly indicated by the resource bar up here on the top right-hand side, about a 25% metal advantage right here, and that's just because of those T2 metal extractors. The map has basically been eaten up immediately by all these commanders, and that's one of the things I loved about the pros, is of course that they're so quick about eating up all those metal extractors and making good use of them. A lot of times we'll see unutilized metal extractors, and that can be a huge pain. Oh, commander snipe right here. Yep, Tick's going in for the commander snipe. Dive in on top of Hexu's commander. Oh, the Tick swarm. Boom goes the Cyan commander on the right-hand side. This is emergency protocol. This is the alarms blaring. This is a code red. This is a time for the blue team to rally here, because that is the entire army for the Cyan commander going down. And suddenly X Factor Live's entire frontline force is charging forward through the valleys here, trying to break the line. You can see units shared over here from the green commander that, yeah, Bloodier sending a bunch of those T1 units, and we also have some fiends running out of the laboratory here as well. But of course, because those units are diverted elsewhere, aggression is popping up all over the place, and now suddenly the blue lines are falling. What looked like a surefire front line has now been revealed to actually be much more flimsy than the red team initially realized, and I think this is an excellent pull right here from some of these yellow tanks now marching forward. We do have Sheldon coming into the lab, but really Fiends are going to be ideal for burning down these medium tanks, and we do have them coming out of the lab, but again, they've got to march all the way from the back line there. Fiend's going to do enough damage to shut down these medium tanks relatively quickly with enough efficiency that I think it's it's even worth it at all. Obviously, you have to kill them some way or another, but you want to use the most efficient unit possible. Ticks sent into the backline and doing a ton of damage here, dismantling a bunch of metal extractors and trying to kill whatever else they can. Luckily, mismicroed right here, or unmicroed right here from the yellow commander. Shuriken pull right here from the red commander, though. Oh, a nice air transition in the backline means that the red commander has shurikens to burn, pushing through on this front line with a whole bunch of res bots to reclaim and repair as many of these units as possible, and making this a very efficient fight because of course, the shuriken up in the air. Blue commander goes for a couple of fighters right now, puts up a air lab. I would expect quite a few fighters more, at the very least sending them on over in this direction to try and clean it up. X-Factor, realizing that this is aerial superiority right here, goes into a couple of fighters of his own, and I wouldn't even be surprised to see a couple bombers. I think 2 or 3 bombers at this point wouldn't be the end of the world, sending them towards the towards the blue team. Getting all choked up on my words here, so excited about how action-packed this game has already kicked off to be. Sending them towards the blue team to do a little bit of damage, try and blow up as many of those wind turbines as possible. Wind turbines very powerful in this map, 0 to 16. If you're feeling lucky, if it's worth risking it to you, those wind turbines can be a gigantic boon to the economy. Obviously, it's 16 wind speed, which it has sustained for quite a while. Wind turbines are going to be phenomenal. Grunts to try and clean all this up, but it does look like the medium tanks and the thugs and all the rest of it that these res bots have managed to patch together have done a wonderful job of pushing forward. There goes the geothermal, basically a big part of the energy production right here for Hex. So you can see the wind turbines, well actually it's 16 wind speed, the wind turbines are doing phenomenal as well. But aside from that, the geothermal did contribute about 300 energy per second towards the blue economy, which is quite nice to have. Light anti-air bots, the Trasher, firing away at whatever they can, trying to take down those fighters, and of course the shuriken that come with them. Fiend's now burning across as well. Oh, nice self-demicro right there. That Fiend blowing up tons and tons of those thugs right there. An excellent trade. T2, definitely capable of cleaning this up. It's just a matter of how far these units can push before that T2 manages to shut it all down. Twin Guard here blasting away at a couple of these units as well. Doing a lovely job of blasting down a whole bunch of this stuff. Yeah, very nicely done. Grunts cleaning up the medium tanks in the backline. This is all looking very lovely right here. Yeah, the red team with a huge advantage on this right-hand side, burning their way through, or blasting their way through here. This fight becomes less and less efficient, though, as those T2 units start to burn. Shuriken in the air, but again, those anti-air bots are firing away here, and every time they fire, it's a dead Shuriken, and that is wasted metal and wasted energy. And just like that, the Shuriken are basically cleaned up. Okay. Time for the resurgence. I love the teamwork right here. You can see the Green Commander Bloodier sending those, sending tons and tons of those Fiends over to the right-hand side to make sure that that side of the map doesn't die. Meanwhile, on the left here, it looks like Autopilot is in a tricky situation. We've got medium tanks, we've got Fiends, we've got all sorts of stuff breaking through the lines, and now the combined forces of the yellow and the orange army are beginning to push forward on the left-hand side. This is awesome. This is beautiful teamwork right here from the red team, realizing, hey, wait a second, we have enough combined force to actually push through this line. Autopilot, ooh, gets within exploding distance. Okay, you know what? Actually explodes on a bunch of those Fiends and softens up those tanks, too. I think maybe enough damage from that commander to make it worth it right here. With the Janus tanks as well contributing a huge impulse of damage, I think it makes this holdable. Obviously not an ideal solution, but it makes this quite holdable in this laboratory. Unfortunate positioning right there, as it is just, yeah, positioned right in front of the metal extractor. Going to make it a little bit difficult to get units out of there. We need more across the map, though. Yeah, you know what? Good old-fashioned T1 is doing it for the red team. It's the difference between paying for your T1 out of your, or your T2 out of your own pocket versus paying for it out of the corpses of your enemy. And the red team has definitely made maximum advantage of the latter. Huge overrun over here on the left-hand side. Those are heavy tanks too. The Bull heavy assault tanks now pushing forward. They're going to blast down that air laboratory relatively easily. The rocket trucks here included as anti-air in case there's shuriken response to any of this as well. But there isn't. The blue team just sending more and more Fiends to try and clean all this up. And again, the Fiends are very, very efficient. I'm going to turn this down a smidge, actually. The Fiends are very efficient here. But I can't help but wonder if they're a little bit... I can't help but wonder if the Fiends are a little bit outpaced by the T2 tanks that are already rolling out on the field. Lexon recovering a lot of that metal, by the way, reclaiming with the commander. The energy and the economy, rather, the whole economy of the blue team in shambles at this point. We do have a T2 constructor, though, so at the very least, with the constructor and with the laboratory still standing, with the T1 constructor in the base here as well, it's going to be recoverable for the blue team. But it is going to take quite a lot of work. They're definitely on the back foot right now, and the red team has every advantage. I want to say that the red team is probably looking... I mean, aside from the ecographs, the red team is looking phenomenal. The red team's still managing to pull themselves back into this by utilizing a lot of that reclaim power, but you can see the energy production is rocketing upwards for the red team. At the 25 to 40-ish% advantage, fusion reactor already up and running on the front lines here for the red team. We've also got loads of wind turbines in the back line, and when that wind speed drops, it's not so important, but obviously with 2 commanders down, it also means the red team, or pardon me, the blue team is knocking on death's door. Something we don't have to worry about all too often in the 8v8 games is just the fact that, yeah, those commanders are very valuable in a 3v3. Consolidate this position, cries out the yellow commander. An interesting play here, apparently trying to make a big push on the left-hand side, trying to break through the line right here. Shuriken are pulled forward, though, and those are going to be wonderful against these tanks. Yeah, no anti-air forces available here, and those heavy tanks are forced back by the Shuriken. The blue army heavily invested in at this point. We've got bolts sent over, and we've got plenty of fiends sent over in this direction as well. Love that we're just sending units all over the place, reinforcing the sides that need it, not necessarily just reinforcing an ever-expanding front line is always cool to see. We got a little bit of a blockage going on right here. Oh, I think a great sacrifice is going to have to be made. I love that these teams are also sharing all their resources. You'll notice the red energy slider bar is down for every one of these commanders. You can see it a little bit better over on this right-hand side. You can see all of their energy slider bars are down, and most of their metal sliders bars are down as well. Basically, it means that all these commanders are sharing resources, meaning that any one of them is going to be able to utilize the team's benefit, and they're all going to suffer the same as well, I suppose, is the trade-off that you pay for that. Bulls being jumped upon by just a mountain of fiends, though. One anti-air truck, all it takes to shut down those Shuriken as well. A nice push, but with the fiends sort of petering out, it's really just those anti-air trucks left in this mix. I want to say a sturdy hold here for the blue team. The third fusion reactor coming up here for Bloatier. Slowly but surely bringing that economic disparity back into balance right now. But with an energy production benefit of about 20% total, 3.3 million versus 2.7 million in favor of the red team. The blue team leading the metal production by about 4,000 or 5,000. These are the total resource production values. So that's the total maximum amount of resources that both teams have produced. It is not the... There's the damage value, which is how much damage their units have done. And you can see the red team, clearly the aggressors here. At 73% damage value advantage, it means that they've definitely been on the aggressive for quite some time. And there you go. You can see those starlights firing away here as well. Arbiters firing their missiles up into the air, their little candy cane missiles up into the air and down upon whatever enemies that they can find. Those starlights are so brutal to fight against. Yeah, with the tick swarm marching forward, the starlights have perfect vision, and it means they can fire away at whatever they want. The arbiter is really the only thing that can reach out far enough to even potentially threaten the starlights. Everything else short of an entire swarm of units is going to be blasted apart by their pulsar beams. Those tachyon streams they fire are no joke. Those things can tear through even the toughest of units. And oftentimes they can be the difference between winning or losing a front line, or cracking open the shells of a highly porked up, fortified defensive position. A big old T2 wall brigade is going to be set up here. Huh. Interesting. We're going to be setting up a bunch of T2 walls. I wonder how effective this is. Well, the T2 walls with 8,900 HP, they also have quite a lot of resistance, which means they don't take very much damage from things, which is a kind of a weird trait. Not very many units in Beyond Horizon have that trait. I wonder if these spaced out walls are going to be effective right here. I mean, obviously they make it very difficult for vehicles to push forward. The bots aren't going to struggle too much, and especially the ticks, for instance, aren't really going to care. But yeah, some of those heavier tanks, like the bulls, they might not even be able to... Oh, okay, looks like the bulls can just barely fit through here. Not sure about the starlights, though. They're extra wide as well. They've got those double tank tracks that make their pencil-necked frame very difficult to maneuver. Big movements over here on the left-hand side. Starlights for the blue team as well, firing away as quickly and as consistently as they can. Bulls here just trying to shut down as many of these Jaguars as possible. The rapid lightning tanks, the assault tanks. Very, very tricky to deal with, but the Bulls do have enough firepower, I do believe, to crack through all this. And with those, again, those Starlights firing away here, only a matter of time before eventually the armor is busted and this front line is lost. Yeah, and you know what? Those Persecutor cannons are no joke either. With the walls in the way, it actually makes it really difficult for the Starlights to line up a clean shot. Yeah, and just like that, that attack is repulsed. Okay, not bad. A very tricky situation right here for the red team. They have the advantage, but they're not sure how to continue the aggression. Eco-scaling in the backline, meanwhile. Looks like Lexon is ready to step up into a proper late game. We've got the advanced fusion reactor queued up right here, and we're going to start pumping out a whole bunch of metal into energy to try and convert it and turn it into more and more metal. Obviously, that is the death spiral beyond all reason. The infinite spiral that we all know and love. More energy means more metal, and more metal means more energy. Yeah. A simple calculus. Persecutors all over the place firing away is actually pretty cool. I like to see those Persecutors in use. They are very, very efficient. Oftentimes one of the easiest ways to go ahead and siege the front line is just to go ahead and build one of those Persecutors. We've got loads of anti-air bots coming up. What is the plan here for all these anti-air bots? The Persecutor cannon, you can see firing away at its maximum range, trying to blast down as many of these units as it can. And, I mean, doing a wonderful job of it, sure. Why not? 15 kills so far, and more surely on the way. At this point, streaming the units in does not seem like it's achieving all too much value. There's a tremor tank now unavailable. The heavy artillery vehicle fires a spew of bullets up into the air, high into the air, and then down upon the enemy. Perfect for sieging a position, but very tricky to use because they are quite expensive. 1,850 metal per tremor. Means that you have to utilize them in a very specific use case, and typically the best way to describe that is choke pointing. Basically creating a field where no units dare to travel, and forcing your enemy to take these congested, inopportune, inefficient fights. There you go. Yeah, you know what? These heavy laser towers are doing a great job. They're actually absorbing so much of this Starlight fire. That is phenomenal. I don't know if I've ever really seen these T2 walls utilized quite so effectively here. By the way, we've stepped into T3. Shiva now on the battlefield, sort of the earliest sign of T3, the earliest symptom of T3 production, you could say. Firing away here their heavy Gauss cannons onto any of these units that they can find. Those heavy impulse warhead cannons are very, very difficult to deal with, and of course the siege missiles they fire out of their backpacks, quite dangerous as well. Just as dangerous to themselves as they are to the enemy, though, it's worth mentioning. Yeah, look at that. We've got negotiators and ambassadors having a little bit of a meeting with each other, trying to arrange some sort of a deal between the Armada and Cortex forces here. This is wonderful, though. Yeah, Shiva pushing forward, and they've got the T1 support as well. There's some Shuriken rolling out. Oh, no. No anti-air in the mix right now. It means these Shurikens are going to have a field day. Luckily, the lasers are capable of firing away at those, and they blast down most of them. And the air is pulled here as well to sweep out the very rest. Not bad. Not bad whatsoever, though. Shiva continuing to siege away at all this base right here. Easily tearing apart these T1 static defenses that were meant for holding back ticks and pawns and grunts. Definitely not in the caliber of shutting down Shivas as they tread their way across the battlefield. The carnage is beautiful. We'll take a moment to just appreciate how satisfying the Shiva is to watch it do its grand deed. Termites in the background there. Looks like the Red Commander will connect with them with a beautiful set of D-guns right there. Very nicely done. Catches those termites before they can do all too much damage in the backline, and then retreats the Commander before the Shiva have a chance to jump on top of it. Those heavy impulse guns are so dangerous, especially to units that clump up quite tightly like Jaguars tend to. Yeah, the wide AoE effect from those cannons can really shatter a bunch of Jaguars quite quickly, as you can tell right here, watching those T2 tanks quickly fall. Catapult firing into the distance as well, always dangerous. When you first see those catapult missiles rocketing out towards your side of the map, you know you've got to start preparing for a long-term game and a rapid solution, because those catapults can reach out and kill basically anything in range. They're the most effective siege weapon that Cortex has at their disposal, firing a gigantic plumage of rockets towards whatever their intended target is. Fighters sweeping across the air lap here of the Red Commander. Nicely done. A couple of SAM turrets come up and running, but a little too late. Yeah, already air supremacy has been won. Those fighters knocking out a bunch of the Red fighters from the sky, and of course the gunships taken out of the factor here as well means, of course, that the Shiva are safe to proceed. Yeah, gunships, one of the few things that can really efficiently kill Shiva, and they've been now nicely dealt with. A never-ending stream of Resbots, ticks, and pawns. The Shiva more than happy to fire away at him. Commander taking some heavy hits here as well. A brutal battlefield as the blue team strikes back. Well, we've got a closed bulwark. Wow. When's the last time you've seen a closed bulwark? Another fun little micro thing. But technically speaking, when you close the bulwark up like this, in the same vein as the pop-up turrets, it actually takes significantly reduced damage. That's why you can see, despite taking direct hits from the ambassadors here and from the catapults from all these rocket launchers, it actually is not going down. It's because of the fact that it's actually closed up. You do that by hitting this off button, the X button, but apparently the yeah, it's apparently the hotkey for that. But yeah, it actually closes up the bulwark and makes it quite a bit more difficult to kill. For the record, pulsars also have that functionality. I think we saw a pulsar somewhere around here. Hold on. I know I saw one. There it is, right there on the front lines. Pulsars actually have the same capability. If you hit the off button, it'll actually retract its head into the little open catacombs right there, the little pyramid structure thing. And it actually takes significantly reduced damage as well. So, a fun little tip for anybody out there who might be under siege and needs to very rapidly protect themselves and doesn't necessarily have the resources to keep everything nice and tidy all on its own. There you go, you can see the bulwark nicely opened up once more. All of its cannons now pointed out towards the outside. Those ambassadors, though, you can see how much damage it takes when it's opened up like that. About 20 or so damage, 20% or so damage taken from each one of those rockets as they connect. Let's see if the Orange Commander will close this once more, if it'll go down to the siege. Looks like it will. Catapult fires away, and the ambassador blows it to high heaven, and just like that, the bulwark is wiped from existence. Shield just barely comes up and running, but obviously the shields don't do much against those rocket units. One of those things that's frustrating to deal with is building a 3,000 metal shield, only for it not to be able to actually block any of the projectiles that are being fired at you. They are quite exclusively Gauss shields. They do not deflect lasers. They do not deflect basically anything. They do not deflect rockets. They only deflect Gauss weaponry. Basically means you're only safe from long-range plasma cannons and some of the particular units that fire Gauss weapons. I feel like Marauders and Pawns are probably the other two important ones that it actually works against. I've definitely seen bases saved by a shield generator deflecting the shots from Pawns, buying enough time to stop them from killing an advanced fusion reactor that they were managed to slip into the backline and almost blow up, to the dismay of whichever commander happens to own it. Long-range anti-air missiles firing away right here, chipping apart all the fighters available for the Red Commander. There's a deep dive for a lot of these Red fighters, but you know what? They're going up against T1 garbage and doing a fabulous job of it. Yeah, you know what? I don't mind it, actually. If they're going to linger in the background and they're just going to fight, then they may as well fight the T1 stuff, and they're doing a great job. So maybe not the end of the world here, these fighters firing around. They managed to clean up the Shuriken and finally are dealt with by a big pull of fighters here from the Cyan Commander, who does have quite a reserve of those fighters hanging out here, the Valiant, the T1 Cortex fighters. The T2 static defenses here make this area quite difficult to break. Into Club on the front lines with a little bit of anti-nuke protection here. We do have an anti-nuke available from Lexon, but there's definitely some gaps, right? The orange production facility for these T3 bad boys is coming up and running, but it isn't quite in production yet. It means the blue team has a little bit more time. Swarm of units coming out for the Red Commander, who has built a gigantic economy out of wind turbines and fusion reactors, but really doesn't have much more under their belt. Resbots to reclaim as much of this as possible, obviously. But this assault of Shivas definitely looks to be quite dangerous. We've got a mounting force of Shivas, already 15,000 metal worth of Shivas, and plenty more on the way. There go the grunts marching forward here. A little bit of a reconnaissance spam, I do believe. Just sending units forward to try and figure out exactly what's out there in the distance. Shiva missiles connecting in a beautiful way. Love watching those Shiva missiles when they do manage to connect with units. It's so rare, so it's so satisfying whenever it does happen. Ambassadors proving extremely dangerous for this front line over here. Yeah, those stealthy rocket launcher missile trucks, they actually still have their descriptor in there. Good versus static defense. Most of those have been removed from the game, but apparently that one still remains. And it's not incorrect either. It's definitely true. The Ambassador and the Negotiator, the Cortex variant, they remain one of the most poignant solutions to one of the most potent, rather, solutions to static defenses. The economy for the blue team still miles ahead of the red, despite this beautiful eco-scaling in the backline here for the orange commander, who does seem to have some T3 rolling out of the lab, by the way. We have demons now coming up and running, spewing their twin flame cannons, firing away at whatever they can, no pun intended. They have a lot of work to do. But you know what? They're doing it well. Yeah, Bulwark's helping a lot, too. I want to say those demons have done a fabulous job, yeah. Just like that, all those Shiva have been knocked down. A couple of the demons still remain up and running. One of them has fallen. My goodness, what an efficient trade. All those Shiva lying in ruin right here, while one demon has fallen for the orange commander. A very, very efficient trade, actually. Remarkably efficient. Demons with an absurd amount of firepower. One of the highest and dangerous... one of the highest concentrated firepower, one of the most dangerous units on the field. With the speed of a Marauder and the firepower of a Razorback, the Demon is definitely something to be very, very afraid of. Obviously clocking in at quite an expense. 6,000 metal, but only 90,000 energy is actually not very much at all. Demons definitely make a very good argument for themselves on the front line. Oof. Burning down these units with ruthless efficiency. Finally, some more of those demons do go down, but still another one of them stays up and standing. There's plenty of grunts here to reinforce and keep all the chaff at bay, but it has become a matter of how long can we hold this front line with what we have before we need to immediately start reinforcing. And I think the answer is going to be Juggernauts. Juggernauts and Behemoth, one of the few things on the front line that can really shut down demons with a relative ease. LRPCs here, by the way. Firing away into the distance. Long-range plasma shots now ricocheting into the backline. We do have a shield generator up and running, so at the very least, yeah, those shots will be somewhat deflected. Oh, it is tricky, though. As the shields get weaker and weaker, it makes it harder and harder to deflect those projectiles. Yeah, and you can see how much damage they really start to do. All the things towards the end of the shield are still in a little bit of trouble. Especially considering we're directly absorbing and deflecting the shot, rather than just glancing the blow. It does take a different amount of energy. It is all simulated differently. It's worth remembering that you know, the whole tank armor thing works quite the same in Beyond All Reason. Deflecting shots is quite a bit easier than full-on absorbing them and reflecting them. The demon swarm is marching forward. The economic differences have now been made up for. Without the reclaim that was going back towards the red team, the blue team, the red team is now pulled into the lead. We are resurrecting from this mass, but we also could be reclaiming from it. Reclaiming a bunch of these units and turning it into proper T3, turning it into Juggernauts, Behemoths, Cargonets, either. Any and all of the above would be stellar. Oh, nice shot right there with those LRPCs. Firing into the backline and blowing up a whole bunch of the build power here. Shield generator does come online, but my goodness, that hurts. Losing hundreds, if not thousands, of metal worth of constructors just because of a rogue LRPC shot definitely starts to sting. These LRPC cannons with 17 kills to their name, but actually quite a few more. If you include all the chain reactions and whatnot, quite a bit more. What a gigantic army of bulls we have here. About 24 bulls. Ready and waiting. Oh, Ambassador's sneaking in. Nicely done. Yeah, Ambassador's sneaking in, firing one volley of missiles, blowing up the T2 lab, and getting on out of there. Nicely done by Autopilot. Managing to very strategically blast down those very key structures on the front line here. I like it. I like it quite a bit. The Ambassadors do have so much range, you may as well take advantage of it. We've gotten ourselves into a proper late game. A 30-minute late game. Going to show just how quickly these professional level players can scale up the eco. Usually we don't get her for about, yeah, I want to say 50 minutes or so. The Resbots pulling units back together on this side is dangerous. Yeah, we're starting to see the halos on some of these shuriken and the demons and whatnot. And that's definitely got to be scaring the blue team on the right-hand side. Here we go, though. Demon does at least push forward. Yeah, that's a lot of damage, too. Blasting apart those Resbots is no joke. 34 kills and counting. Obviously, it's a little anti-air backpack missile firing away here as well. Man, this is the issue. I think those demons could have pushed forward, and all this reclaim could have gone back to the red team. Instead, most of it was resurrected here, and it did manage to push a little bit further forward. But ultimately, I don't think the advantage was that great. Fighters are pulled immediately from the red commander in order to deal with all the gunships here. We do have gunships moving forward for the cyan commander as well. It's a concentrated dual push on the right-hand side, but my goodness, this air battle is ridiculous. Fighters sweeping across each other, trying to knock the gunships out of the air. At the end of the day, it's going to be the red commander, I do believe, who takes aerial supremacy. But there you go, X-Factor, or no, pardon me. Oh yeah, X-Factor Lives commander. The red commander does go down over here as a demon manages to catch it off guard. Suddenly into club. One of two remaining commanders, actually. Lexon. One of the other remaining commanders. Oh, left-hand side has been swarmed, though. Oh, no. I didn't notice in the heat of the battle on the right-hand side, the orange demons have managed to punch the line. The bulls standing no chance as the demons rupture the backline defenses. Despite the static defenses set up, the Scorpion turrets, the Aphis is still below. Bloody are trying to move into position to deflect all this, but there's nothing the lone commander can do. If he deguns and he misses, if he deguns and the demons pay attention, and that's all there is to say. Oh. Bloody are running away with his life, trying desperately to escape. But at the end of the day, the backline economy has been shattered. And just like that, well, you know, don't speak too soon. There are demons in the back here. I don't think there's enough, though. Yeah, those gunships in the air are nice. They're blasting down those demons quite nicely. More and more units falling on the front here, and the Shiva just don't have the firepower to break through. The demons, on the other hand, more than capable of burning down those buildings before they themselves get turned to cinders. And it looks like Pro Autopilot is the very last one standing. GG is called as Bloodier leaves the game. The last commander standing. And he's just an idle husk. An idle husk waiting to be discovered right here. It does look like eventually they will find him and the red team will take the victory. My goodness. What a back and forth match right here between the red and the blue. But with the overwhelming early aggression, the red team managed to almost the entire game keep their advantage. They got pushed back quite harshly on the right-hand side. This side where the red commander was not set up so thoroughly, definitely a little bit weaker. But in the end of the day, with enough demon play, the red team manages to break through. Very, very cool to see. And thanks to you a ton for watching. And I sure hope you did enjoy watching these pro level players go at it against each other. If you did enjoy, feel free to subscribe and like and all that good stuff. And I will see you in the very next game of Beyond All Reason. Peace out, everybody.